G'day and welcome to another week of Talk of the Town to the Port Adelaide Premiership champion. Hello, Warren Tredrea.
Seb Costello and Sam McClure, let's do it again.
And we will, although something's a little different about this week. The chief football reporter for the Nine Network, now very own Sam McClure, I understand, Sammy, you're in isolation.
I am. Hello, Seb. Hello, Treaders. We've had a bit of an outbreak at one of my other employers, Croc Media, which has been pretty well reported. They've had 2 positive tests, and so anyone that's been working in the building, which I do my daily radio show with Jared Healy, Sports Day on 3RW at that building, has had to go and get themselves tested. Now, the good news is I got the text this morning and I am negative. So hopefully we can get back to work.
Good.
So let's get this right. You've actually had a test, but you've got a more sprightly T-shirt on. Your hair's been done and you've got a better background. Normally you're in a dungeon. So that would suggest that you've actually gone to a better place.
Well, although she won't want me to admit this, my partner, Nisha, who usually works here at the dining room table, has just decided this week, without any consultation with myself, that she's in fact going to work for the study now, and I'll have to work around that. So here I am out here out in the living room, and I've got to say I'm enjoying it. And I've deliberately not worn headphones just to distract her. So really looking forward to how loud today goes.
Treaders, isn't it good that Sam had enough material left over from the T-shirt to make the painting behind him? It's
yeah,
great,
and we can't get it. We can't get a shot of the curtains either. So I reckon that the 3-in-1.
All right, let's cheer Sammy up with our first topic, and it is this. I think Carlton is becoming a byword in AFL language for last-minute specialists to pull out the victory. It was Matty Cottrell last night, a newcomer for the Blues, 2 minutes to go, takes a nice mark with the Sydney player flying against him, and then went back and buried it. Sam, just how were the excitement levels on the couch?
Well, how could you ever be a Carlton supporter with what they do to you week in, week out? I mean, you had to deal with Jack Nunes kicking the miracle goal after the siren against Fremantle, and then last night, 39 points down, half asleep for a quarter and a half. But, I mean, we can laugh about it, Treaders, but unfortunately they threw their season away in the previous 2 weeks. They were in winning positions against Collingwood at half-time and against GWS at three-quarter time. Now, I know what people say, and, they weren't going to win the flag this year anyway, but I don't think that's the point. You want to play finals because you don't know what can happen in finals. And, yeah, you just got to ask with what's been happening, particularly at the Adelaide Oval yesterday, Treaders. Does anyone actually want to finish 8th?
I don't think anyone wants to get there at the moment because you look what's happened. GWS got beaten by Adelaide. Yeah, the Adelaide team that has actually got on the field the last 2 weeks is a totally different team. They're actually coming with vigour, with spirit, with chasing, with intent. It's been absolutely brilliant to watch. But did I hear you give up on Carlton's chances? It wasn't so long ago on our little thread of information that we have in producing this show that you said, Treaders, you ruled out the Bombers, said the Bombers are a chance, yet you've just written off your own Blues. What's going on?
No, the Blues are gone, and I'm happy to admit that.
They were in the top 8 that you put out a few weeks ago.
They were in the top 8 2 weeks ago, weren't they?
And if they'd won one of those games against Collingwood and GWS, they'd be in a perfect position to be able to make the 8. But they didn't. Sometimes and Treaders, just to be clear, I redid the ladder predictor today. It's going to go up the page later on Wednesday. I redid it. I've got Essendon finishing 14th. And you said they could still make the 8. After you said that, it was 11 goals to nothing at half-time against Geelong. So how did the predictions go?
Yeah, I said that a month ago after Joe Danaher dominated. And then all of a sudden, what's happened?
You did that 2 weeks ago.
All right, hang on. We've got to have a look at this, guys, because this is the race for the 8. Sam says that Carlton are out, but look, they're still within 8 points of 6th place, a game behind the GWS in 8th. Treaders, of these 6 teams, the Saints, the Pies, the Giants, the Doggies, the D's and the Blues, which 3 do you see making it into the top 8?
I reckon GWS might slide, and it depends which Bulldogs rock up. So I think Collingwood will get there. I think St Kilda will get there. But it really comes down to the Western Bulldogs. It was the Bulldogs we saw, only recently where they dominated play and looked like, wow, they're back again. But if you go back a few weeks earlier, they have been the yo-yo team. I think you can write off Carlton, and I think you can write off Melbourne. And I think GWS, they are not playing well. They got belted by Adelaide and belted all over the ground. And that's not a good sign. I know the Crows are much improved, but they only had 2 wins for the year, and they've been the last 2 weeks. So you knew it was coming, and they still couldn't do anything about it.
I reckon, I'll take a look at this one. If I can just throw this up before you respond. This says that if Carlton wins the next two, the Dogs lose to either the Hawks or the Dockers. The D's beat the Giants, the Bombers beat the D's in the last week, and the Saints get up against the Giants. Your Blues make the 8. It's still possible.
Yeah, yep. And I've still got a potential career in AFL football as well. That won't happen. I reckon the interesting one, though, is the Dogs. The Dogs play the Hawks, Treaders, and then they've got a really prickly game against Justin Longmuir's refreshed Fremantle in the last game. Yeah. That game, for me, I've got GWS finishing 9th on 36 points. I think the Pies will make it as long as they win one of their next two, and they play the Gold Coast and then Port. The Dogs need to win both games to make it, I think, and I think the Saints only need to win one of their last two games, albeit they are playing West Coast and then GWS. So ostensibly they could miss if they have two slip-ups, the Saints, against two really good sides. But I'm with you. I reckon you can write off the D's, the Blues and the Bombers.
Interesting too, boys. Isn't it always good when you put up a graphic, you're telling me there's a chance? That was Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber, so that's not a good example of what we do on this show, Talk of the Town.
Some might say it's a very apt comparison, Treaders, but I take your point as well. Let's move on to this scenario, because it's such a big issue for the league that they actually took the step of speaking to the clubs earlier in the week about this, and it revolves around players who won't make finals still being in Queensland when the season ends, not wanting to go back to Victoria, who would at the moment with the COVID situation the way it is, but the risk that players will stay up in Queensland and maybe overextend themselves, Treaders. Is this a bit of a recipe for players getting into trouble?
I reckon the Queensland Premier would certainly think so, especially when the polls aren't too far away. They've got the grand final. It's all smelling rosy. The hubs have been going quite well. But let's face it, we've got footballers who continue to stuff up, and they've still got games to play every week. Imagine what happens when they get off tap. They get free time. They get outside the hub. They can drink. They can go to the dance bars and look out. I'd be getting them out of there. But what I can tell you, from some of the players I know that ex-South Australians have been drafted to North Melbourne, to Melbourne, to St Kilda, all the Melbourne clubs, they're coming home to South Australia to spend time with family because you can go straight between Queensland and South Australia. I suspect, too, the West Australian players may want to quarantine for a couple of weeks and then head back there for an extended period. I don't think any players will be rushing back to Melbourne unless they really have to at the moment because, let's face it, you boys are in lockdown. It's not great life having to live in lockdown. There's not too much you can do. And players clearly, this time of year, once 40 season finishes, head off on holiday and a lot of them go overseas or interstate. So I suspect that some of the places like Broome or the Northern Territory or some of the warmer spots will certainly be copping a hammering with the holidays. And I dare say the Queensland Premier wants them out of the hub just so they don't create any mess.
Sam, the Queensland election is the Saturday after the great showpiece grand final at the Gabba. So it'll be a tense time politically. Do you reckon clubs will just quietly say to a few of the players they're worried about maybe they're somewhere out of the spotlight we'd like you to go?
Oh, I think so. I feel really bad for the players that are not going to be playing finals, that know it. That, I think that there's, and Treaders, you can attest to this, I think there's a big feeling within the community that players have been selfish this year, which I disagree with. But I also think there's this misguided view that every single AFL footballer earns $1 million. They live in a mansion on the beach. They have the best lives. And, if they need to suck it up for a few months, they should. That's only probably true of 2 or 3%. A lot of them are earning not that great money that's already been halved. They've had $100 million taken out of what the players will be earning this year. And then some of them playing for North Melbourne or playing for Hawthorn or playing for Sydney, that they're not going to be part of finals actions and are now being told they're going to have further restrictions on them. I mean, look, I know there's people in a lot worse positions given what's happened across the world, but it's not ideal for some of these players.
No, it's not. And let's face it, at the end, as I said before, the end of the season is the risk period. So, I'll probably hold you a little bit up on that. They are earning pretty good money. Yeah, yes, they've dropped, what are they earning, 70% this year? Because they got paid the first 5 months at 100% and it's been 50% ever since. So it's around 70.
Yeah,
it's still good money. The average salary is a lot better than the average person, let's be honest.
Yeah, but an average career of a lawyer or a doctor or a journalist might be 35, 40 years. These guys get 8 years on average. That's not much.
Yeah, Absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm saying right now, considering we're looking at COVID and people lost jobs, it's not the worst. And they're basing themselves in Queensland. As one of the players told me, it's absolutely unbelievable in those hubs. They couldn't believe how good it is. So I think I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing to a certain extent. But a lot of the issues here is I think the AFLPA, particularly by the AFL, would be seriously worried about what happens to our players once they're off. Because they don't have control against them. They've got to still get their holiday component. They're able to travel. And that's when the players are most at risk. They don't have the structure. They don't have to be there, do this, the competitive edge. So it's a big challenge for them. And that's coming up.
And Seb, I'll just make the point that not everyone can finish their illustrious career as one of the great modern day full forwards and then become the third biggest name in football media in South Australia. I mean, that's hard to do.
Hang on.
Who have I fallen behind now?
I'll pay Kane. Who's the other one?
Well, number one's clearly Roo, and then Kane and Tredders are kind of fighting for second. Any response there, Warren?
Mate, I've never been worried about how I'm ranked. I just worry about how I perform, and on this show, I'm carrying you.
As they like to say, 1 premiership and 4 All-Australians between the three of us. Let's move on to the players that are coming into their respective sides from the hub. An ex-school colleague of yours, Sammy, and Dan Hanbury, I believe. And also, how good are the Cats with Gary Ablett? Or does he even get in the way Geelong are going at the moment, Sam?
Well, he's got Andrew Mackey as his personal fitness coach. He'll get in. What a Phillip Treaders for the Cats, who I thought really flexed their muscles against Essendon. I know Essendon were really bad, but the Cats just, ran rampant, I thought. And I had a sneaky feeling that they might continue to flex their muscles on Friday night against the Tigers, who have been teetering on the edge, particularly with the off-field stuff for a while now. But Treaders, what kind of boost would it give that group, given how well they're going, to bring in Gary Ablett? It doesn't even matter if Gary's not near 100%. If he's at 60%, the fact that he's there must be huge for him.
And he's very much like a Robbie Gray, from all I hear. He's not a huge track horse, but their ability to be able to come off limited prep or interrupted preparation and play has always been a highlight in both of their careers. So I think it's quite literally taken the PI55 out of everyone else, because you look at the way the Cats are going, they're flying. If you look at this time last year, the way the Cats were going, they were flying. But I think later, towards the last 3 or 4 rounds, they finished top after the minor round last year. They struggled in the finals and fell away. 5 less games is going to help this team alone, the Cats. And I think right now on form, they're the premiership favourite. I think Richmond's probably next. And then I think Port Adelaide slightly below that. But it's all going to come down to how fit you are in 5 weeks' time for your first final, and then how well you manage your list in that period of time. Because as we know, we're going through a bit of a squeeze in terms of the fixture right now.
All right. It's time to get the clock out, because it is Sebs Speedy segment, or as we call it, Triple S. Okay, 60 seconds on the clock. Our questions begin now. Treaders, no finals win for almost 6,000 days and a loss of 18,000 members in the last 12 months. Do the Bombers need an administration change?
Is that including their recruiting department?
Correct.
That's
yes.
admin. Yeah,
Yep.
I think they're going to get their recruiting and their trading and everything right, because at the moment, and their medical department, I think they need a whole review, because at the moment, their list is a lot better than what we're seeing.
Seb's an angry Essendon supporter.
No, well, okay, I'll take that on notice. I was going to ask, you wrote the story on Connor McKenna in The Age today. He says the book is not closed yet. Have we seen the last of Connor McKenna at AFL level?
No, I think he'll come back. Although, given his drive-by for the AFL media, Seb, in that same article, I'm not sure we'll be getting any interviews with him on Talking to Town.
He said, but out of things you don't understand. Very clear there from the Irishman. Treaders, and this is continuing the theme, Crows fans say that as of last night, they've won more games in September than Essendon has in 14 years. Should Crows fans, given their season, pump themselves up or pipe down?
I'd pipe down. Remember, we were talking about whether to be winless a fortnight ago. Celebrate the two really hard, but it's only 2. Just celebrate.
Seb, just put the scarf on. It'll just
There's no agendas here. I don't know what you're saying. All right, as we come to the end of our time here, I will ask Sam Hell the second last question off the back of the Richmond boys. Chicken or lamb kebabs?
No, it's not even a question. It's clearly chicken.
Okay, and I'll finish here. Treaders, with Sam in lockdown at the moment, just how many Instagram stories about his coffee machine are we going to see in the next few days?
I've counted 2021, and I reckon there'll be 2022, and then 2023 when I get the local kebab, or as we call them in South Australia, gyros maker, and I'm going to send a whole lamb over so he knows what lamb is because it's so much better than chicken.
I just don't think you need any of those kebabs, Treaders. I reckon you'd stay off them for a month or two.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Try shave your neck, it's grown a bit long time.
Oh. All right. This moves us on to, let's do Social Club first. And we mentioned the great man in the first break of the show, Matt Cottrell, kicking the goal with 90 seconds to go to put Carlton over the line by 5 points. Not only can he kick, but he can dance. Take a look at this from TikTok. It's me, Sam. That's very active.
I honestly reckon that celebration last night is up there. He's up there with our great man. Like,
it's not quite there though, is it? It's not quite there.
I'd agree with that. Hey, I should mention that video came from the Forgotten AFL Players Instagram account. If you want a bit of a laugh at AFL culture, it's well worth a follow. And we'll finish off with the sure things. Let's have a look at the leaderboard. Speaking of people who can't make finals, Treaders, you cannot win from here.
Good. Can you, before we jump into that, I'll take Port Adelaide to take that out. And can you please explain to me what those two chairs are behind you? Is that a little bit of WWE about that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. These are actually the commemorative chairs, if you don't mind, from the day I won't stand up because I'm not wearing suit pants, but from the day the WWE came to the MCG, and they are two of my most favourite pieces of furniture, so they do take
any chance of growing up?
Seb, did you steal them from Rod Laver Arena and walk out Olympic Boulevard?
He flunked two chairs.
It's unbelievable.
How do you walk out like that?
Oh, well, it was
nothing
just
to see, security man.
In case anyone tried to roll me on the way home, you know, I could just kind of give him one of these.
Wow. No. Your poor missus.
You guys look very disappointed. Treaders has taken Port Adelaide. Sam, sure thing for this weekend?
Who are Carlton playing? Oh, no, they're playing Adelaide.
You'll lose to Adelaide.
Sure thing for this weekend is Fremantle to beat North Melbourne.
Oh, I like it. And I am going to take the Lions to knock off the Swans. The Port Adelaide Premiership champion, Warren Tredrea, thank you for your services.
See you next week.
And Sam, we absolutely wish you all the best as hopefully this, whatever it is, isolation ends as soon as possible. And you're out there breaking yarns, which you do best. Sam McClure, thanks for your time.
Oh, I sense sarcasm there. I don't know. No. Treaders, can you order me a chicken soup with extra garlic sauce for lunch? Thank you.
Yeah, it might take a while to deliver. It'll be cold by you get to you.
This has been Talk of the Town.